The fifth GOP debate this election cycle and last one of 2015. Anne-Marie, it is just hours away. 9 Republican hopefuls will take the primetime stage tonight in Vegas.
Front and center will be real estate magnate Donald Trump. He'll be flanked by retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson and Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who has gained significantly in the recent weeks.
Going into tonight's contest, Trump's lead is widening nationwide. A poll out overnight finds the billionaire with 38% of GOP support. That is 23 points ahead of the nearest competitor.
Though in Iowa, the nation's first caucus state, 2 out of 3 recent polls show that Cruz is on top. Joining us now from a brand new Washington Post newsroom is political reporter Ed O'Keefe. Thanks for joining us. Let us break it down, Ed, sort of plain and simple. Who has the most at stake tonight?
You could make an argument, Anne-Marie, for just about anyone, but I'd say the 2 that have the most at stake are Ted Cruz, who you mentioned there, is now closer to center stage, and then Chris Christie, the New Jersey governor, who's back on the primetime debate stage after spending the last debate with the undercards, if you will. He had a very strong performance in his last debate, and there's a good chance that if he comes out swinging tonight, he could enjoy yet another surge in New Hampshire, where he's been improving his numbers in recent weeks on the backs of a few key Republican endorsements and the endorsement of the state's largest newspaper. But beyond those 2, I mean, any one of them really wouldn't be hurt by a good moment. These are performances, these are opportunities to reach large audiences. But of the 2, certainly Ted Cruz, given that he's now surging in Iowa, and Chris Christie, because if he doesn't do well, frankly, he's got a lot more to lose.
Yeah, Ed, Cruz is coming into this contest with a lot of momentum, but he does now have this target on his back. He's been brushing off the attacks from Donald Trump. He's been sort of pointing to them and sort of laughing and making little jokes. But do we expect Cruz to hit back tonight? Because generally after these debates, if Donald Trump goes after somebody on that stage, generally their numbers start to go down.
Yeah, and that's why I think any attempt to predict what may or may not happen is sort of foolhardy, because if you remember when Jeb Bush tried to hit Marco Rubio and how that sort of ended up falling flat, part of the reason it fell flat was because for about 4 days before the debate, everyone was predicting he was going to do that, and Rubio was clearly ready for it. You should think that at this point, Cruz has gamed out every potential scenario. Trump has done the same. And we'll just sort of see what happens based on the questions. Cruz has said, I'm not really going to go after anyone. I'm not going to make this personal. If he sticks to that tonight, good for him. But, he may also be passing up an opportunity to take a hard shot and remind at least his supporters in Iowa, where he's beginning to do much better, why they should stick with him and avoid someone like Trump.
During some of the previous debates, just having a good moment could be a win for certain candidates. It gets repeated over and over again the next day. But now we're a little further along down this road, just a moment. I don't know if that's good enough. What's a win going to look like for Ted Cruz or Donald Trump?
I think he survives the attacks that he probably is going to get from Trump, from Marco Rubio, from others. If he's able to sustain that and sort of swat them away and stand firm, as he has, frankly, in the Senate, sticking up for his views despite widespread opposition from his Republican colleagues. I mean, if there's anyone on stage who's used to getting, friendly fire, if you will, from fellow Republicans, it is Ted Cruz. And so we'll see if tonight perhaps he faces that and how he deflects it. But his other challenge will be sort of reminding the broader Republican Party and all voters for that matter that this is someone who potentially could not only win the nomination, but then go on to win the presidency. Remember, that is the ultimate prize for Republicans. Some of the arguments that you see guys like John Kasich, Jeb Bush, and Chris Christie make is, look, this is one stage. This is chapter 1 of a long tail. And the big prize, of course, is at the end next November. That is what Republicans should be focused on. This idea that you would nominate someone who's from the Tea Party wing, who's ultra-conservative, who's bombastic, those guys argue, is, again, a bad idea, because we are very likely to lose to Hillary Clinton if we do. That's what they say.
Ed, speaking of Governor Bush, you wrote an article on a prediction that the governor made where he said that Donald Trump would be in decline by December 15th. That day has come, and it seems like Trump is actually surging. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it feels like after the last debate, we were talking about a Bush revamp, Bush 2.0, and he was predicting that Donald Trump would go down, and that's not happening.
Yeah, this was because Bush was convinced that keeping focus on national security, on foreign affairs, would help him, would help make the argument that he is a steady, seasoned, experienced leader for steady and serious times. And so, it hasn't worked. If you look at our polling this morning, he came out with 5%, Trump on top with 38%. If you believe those polls in Iowa, perhaps Trump is in decline because Ted Cruz is now surging ahead. But if you look at every other poll that's been released in the last week, Trump is either at where he's been or higher, despite what he said recently about temporarily banning Muslims from the country. Bush had made this prediction at a Dallas fundraiser behind closed doors alongside his brother, George W. Bush. He'd been asked by somebody, something that frankly he's been asked by reporters and voters out in public repeatedly. When are you going to take a hit at Donald Trump? How do you take him out? And his only answer to that question, according to the audio I received from that closed-door fundraiser, was by December 15th, Donald Trump will be in decline. Well, today's December 15th. It didn't happen.
Yeah, you might want to throw out that crystal ball or shine it up or something.
At least get a new one.
Yeah. Ed O'Keefe from the Washington Post, thanks a lot.
Take care, guys.
And keep it right here on CBSN for all of the highlights. And, you know, we might have some lowlights tonight, Anne-Marie. From tonight's Republican debate, coverage starts tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern.